Do you believe that life is what you make it? Stick around. Thanks for joining me at Craft with Kathie. I wanted to do a little inspirational piece, something a little bit different, and I think something that would help encourage someone to keep this more foremost in their mind or in our minds. I think the little quote, "Every day is an opportunity for joy," is really on target. I think we need to make the most of things while we can. Focus on the positive, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, truly, if we don't look for joy every day, we probably won't see it. So sometimes it takes a little bit of a concerted effort to really find happiness. Happiness, I do believe, comes from within, but I think we also have to look for it. So with that in mind, I wanted to do this transfer, and I'm going to do it on a pallet board, and I'm going to do it on this side. Now this will sit up fine. You know, obviously it'll stand vertically or horizontally, so that'll be great, but I am going to put it vertically because that's the way it fits the best. And I am going to quickly wax it and then get started on the chalking. And the chalking is going to be fairly simple, I think, unless I change my mind on the colors and whatever that I'm planning on using. Sometimes I do that, but what can you do? Isn't that the cool thing about crafting? You get to make it your way, the way you want. You might see something that you like and say, oh, that's cool, but I would do it this way, or I would add this, or I would change that. The joy of crafting, the fun of it. So I'm going to take a little bit of our surface wax, or actually more than a little bit, because this is a pretty good size surface. Actually, the pallet board is 12 by 9, and it's like an MDF that's been whitewashed. And yes, I know I have a little flaw in the wood. That's fine. It's part of the wood, so that's what I'm going for. I might distress the edges of this when I'm done. I'm going to see what it looks like and see which way I want to go with it. I've got a couple different ideas for what I might do to it. It's going to be somewhat straightforward, but a little bit of a spin. I'm actually thinking of putting a drop shadow on it. I'm coming at you from the suburbs west of Chicago. Drop me a line. Let me know where you're viewing from. I've just basically applied the wax, and now I'm going to rub off the excess. Rub it on, rub it off. That's pretty much all it is. And the wax acts as a barrier between the surface, the wood surface, and my transfer, because our transfers are adhesive backed, and I don't want to take any chance of lifting a splinter or some paint or anything onto the adhesive back of the transfer. It also acts as somewhat of a barrier, so that if I make a mistake with my chalk and I oops and do something wrong, if it's not really deeply pigmented, I can most likely go back and wipe it off with a wet paper towel or something and fix the mistake. If it's deeply pigmented, you know, wood's porous, so it's going to absorb. That's part of what we're working with when we deal with wood. But on chalkboard, glass, metal, mirror, etc., our chalk paste is erasable, and that makes it very cool to work with, because if you do make a mistake, and oh goodness, I make mistakes every single day, and I've always been one that's willing to admit to it. I figure admit to it, learn from it, go forward, right? So like I said, our transfers are adhesive backed. They're made out of out of vinyl, which is the teal, and silk screen, and you're seeing through the silk screen to my fuzzing cloth underneath. And the silk screen allows us to get a very crisp, beautiful image of the image, or the transfer, or the wording, the script. So I've just fuzzed this, which means I've deliberately applied a little bit of lint to the back of it so that it doesn't stick as snugly as it would otherwise. This is a brand new transfer, so it's pretty sticky. And I'm just going to line it up here. Let's see if it's straight. It looks pretty straight, and I thought it was centered and it just scooted on me. So let me try that again. Okay, that looks good. I want to smooth it out, make sure I don't have any air bubbles underneath the silk screen, because I'm going to apply paste, and the paste is going to go through the silk screen onto the surface beneath it. It's that simple. If you can butter toast, you can chalk. So what I'm thinking of is using my Shimmer Gold and my Shimmer Splash. And I've got to think a little bit of what I'm doing first. Okay. So I'm going to do like the sunburst in the gold and most of the rest in the Shimmer Splash. Ooh, this seems a little thick to me. I did thin it down a little bit before, a few minutes ago actually, because it seemed like it was a little thick. If your paste thickens up, you want to add distilled water to it to thin it down. You want it to have the texture of like sour cream or Greek yogurt. It should hold its shape. It shouldn't be drippy, but it shouldn't be stiff either. So I'm going to use the paste and peel method here so that the paste is not dry in my silk screen. And then by lifting it up, I make sure that the paste doesn't dry in my silk screen. Let me check that out again. Okay, that's just, oops, I actually have something on the back of my transfer. I must have picked up a little crummy thing. Let me go back over that and see if I get that area. Okay, that fixed it. By lifting it up, the silk screen, the paste won't dry in the silk screen, and it allows me to take my time on the project. And I'm going to do the gold next. And if you're not familiar with our shimmer paste, they're beautiful. They give you the shine and the shimmer glitter, but not quite as, a little more subtle of a look, if that makes sense. And not the mess of glitter, because our shimmer paste does not flake off. To be careful not to get too close to my shimmer splash that I put down. Just the rest of it here. Getting a little bit close to that shimmer splash. Okay, I'm going to lift it up and take a look at that. Oh yeah. Oops, I've got a little area right here that I missed a bit. Now, the paste and peel has the added benefit of allowing you to check as you work as you go along. And because you don't fully lift off the transfer, if you did make a little oops or a mistake, it's much easier to correct it. If you lift the transfer up and you have to go back and fix something, then you probably have to clean the transfer again, wait till the paste dries, and then go back. Just lay it over the top of it and fix your problem. So it's really not, either way, you're fine. So I'm going to do the remaining of the wording in my shimmer splash. And then I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back over and add the drop shadow when I'm all done with this. I think it'll be a nice little accent to the project, and it really is so easy to do. But before I do that, I'll have to clean my transfer, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Okay, I think this looks good. Let me take a little peek at it. The bottom of my lettering is a little light. Let me go back over it. Might be that my paste is thickening it up a little bit. Might need to thin it down and go back over. Better, but I think I'm going to actually darken that up. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at right now. And I think it looks interesting, but what I'm going for is actually having the shimmer splash be a drop shadow to my word joy. So I will clean my transfer, and when this is dry, I'm going to put the transfer back over and shift it a little bit over the word joy, and then chalk it in the shimmer gold. Sound like a plan, right? So let me move this over out of the way and let it dry a bit while I work on cleaning my transfer. Now, generally I would bring this over to the sink and clean it, but as I'm live, I'm going to clean it up on my surface. I'm going to spritz the back side, the sticky side of my transfer first, and then I'm going to wet the front with water. I'm actually spraying my board eraser because I'm using that to remove the excess paste from my transfer. And the board eraser is great at diminishing any staining from highly pigmented paste. The staining doesn't actually hurt the transfer at all. It no way impacts the usability. It just doesn't look as pretty as it did initially. So I'm getting the excess paste off of my transfer after I've used the board eraser. I'm going to flip it over and now clean off the adhesive side. Want to make sure there's no paste in the silk screen, and then when I'm all done, I use my disinfecting wipe in one direction to basically wipe off all the fuzz from the fuzzing cloth. Then I'm going to take this transfer generally and put it aside, sticky side up to dry. But for this instance, I'm going to use a little trick to speed dry it, if you will. Fuzzing cloth has two sides. One side's the terry that we fuzzed on. The other side is microfiber. I'm going to lay it microfiber side up, and then I'm going to put my transfer on it, sticky side up, and gently fold it over and squeeze out the moisture. Got paste on my fingers. Paste under my nails. Messy crafter. Now this will dry it much quicker than just letting it set to dry. So I'm going to lift this off, set it aside to dry a little bit, and then we'll go on to the next portion of this project. Okay, our regular chalk paste takes about 5 minutes to dry. Our shimmer paste takes about 8 minutes. So I want to make sure this is dry. Yeah, it looks like it's dry, so all that's good. I need to check out my transfer. Can you see some of the glitter in that? Some of the shimmer? Wow, that gold really sparkles. Okay, I'm going to fuzz my transfer and then do the drop shadow on the joy. And actually, I don't know if I want to darken up the rest of this or not. I might go over it again. I'm not sure. It looks pretty good. Oh boy, it really renewed that adhesive, sticking very strongly. So the thing behind the drop shadow is you just put the transfer down and shift it over a little bit of where it was before. So I'm going to line this up over the joy. And then, whoops, get it lined up. And then I'm going to bring it down and a little bit over. Whoops, a little bit too much. Well, on to the drop shadow. Drop shadow works best if the first color that you apply is darker so that it acts as the shadow. Now I'm applying the gold shimmer after I reapplied the transfer and just shifted it over a little bit. I usually drop it down and then move it slightly to the right. Get that all smoothed down. I'm going to go back over the top of my Y. I don't really like the way that looks. There we go. What do you think? It has just a little bit of the blue behind it, but enough to make it stand out just a little bit. I think I'm going to leave the rest of the shimmer splash alone. I think I like the way it looks. What do you think? Thanks for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate it. See you soon.